Welcome to this live edition of the INFOWARS Nightly News. I'm David Knight with Leanne McAdoo on this Thursday, August 14th, 2014. Here are our top stories.
Tonight, shocking video from the front lines of the InfoWar as Ferguson police deliberately target journalists. The truth about the Ferguson riots and martial law. Because the police state isn't coming, it's already here. That's up next on the InfoWars Nightly News.
We're going to be joining our reporters who are live on the scene in Ferguson, Missouri tonight, but first we want to break down for you what's been happening this last week. Now, as Paul Joseph Watson pointed out in his story today on INFOWARS.com, he said Ferguson police were essentially AWOL back on Sunday when we had the looting, yet last night they were out in force to crush the First Amendment and to arrest journalists, with authorities attempting to enforce an arbitrary nighttime ban on protests and peaceful demonstrators. They were telling everyone last night, first you can come into one area, now you've got to move to another area. You've got to leave right away, and if you don't, that essentially gives them a pretext to arrest you, or they can gas you, or they can shoot you with rubber bullets. All of those things were happening last night to journalists, not just to peaceful demonstrators. Now, the journalists who were arrested were the Washington Post's Wesley Lowery and the Huffington Post's Ryan Riley. They were arrested, says the Washington Post reporter. He said it was an illegal assault on the freedom of press to cover the news, and the Huffington Post reporter said he was handcuffed as he was charging his phone at a local McDonald's. He said the cops arrested him because he was photographing them, which, of course, is legal. There is no expectation of privacy in a public area. There is no expectation of privacy in an area that is open to the public, in a business like McDonald's. He said he didn't pack his bag quickly enough, so they arrested him. They also got pretty rough with him, shoving them around, shoving them into the drink machine, from what they said. Now, we've had witnesses tell us that they were allowing everybody to loot, and we have this other article on InfoWars.com. Eyewitness says Ferguson cops allowed everybody to loot. We've got an embedded report there. Let's go to that right now. This is essentially what they told us earlier today.
The thing about it is they allowed everybody to loot Sunday.
Yeah, that's what I heard. One of the guys we spoke to earlier said the cops were blocking an area and literally letting the masses drive by and then go into the shopping centers.
They surrounded the entire community at each end and let everybody loot and do everything they wanted to do. And
do what now?
Oh no, I was just finishing.
I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, this is all a ploy basically to make sure that everybody begins a war with the police, even though they're rioting for a for a reason, for a cause. But of course, they're going to try to use militia. And they're going to try to use, of course, the facade version of America. You know what I'm saying? The facade version of America just sees a bunch of people running around hectic and just wanting to destroy their community, and that's not what's going on right now.
Making the weaponization even more vicious and deceptive.
Exactly what he was telling us on Tuesday. We had another person that we interviewed from the area on Tuesday that Leanne talked to, and he was saying essentially the same thing, that they were allowing people to loot. They stood down. They let people into the area. This fellow believed that it was essentially the police setting things up to enact martial law, essentially as a false flag. But it's a real event. It's a false flag even if it's a real event, if they stand down and let it happen.
Absolutely. That was Adrian Hubbard. And he thought that it was pretty suspicious, actually, that the cops were just they cordoned off the entire area and just allowed cars to drive in. They saw that things were getting really escalated there, things were being set on fire. People were really upset. Now, granted, maybe it, took a little time for the police to, figure it all out tactically what they were going to do, but they got the area cordoned off. But Adrian said there were clearly people coming in from other towns to take part in this free-for-all and basically just tearing everything down, causing this mayhem, this destruction. And he said it really appeared to him that they were allowing it to ramp up for what he thought was an excuse to use heavy police force. And, there he was a witness to the vigil, and he was at the peaceful vigil, saw the peaceful vigil escalate into this rioting. There, the police sort of shoved everyone off. They're like, your vigil is over, because apparently in Ferguson, Missouri, the First Amendment ends at dusk.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very different situation last night, wasn't it? They were deliberately tear gassing journalists.
Yes, absolutely. And the First Amendment, it's not just the peaceful protesting that ends at dusk. Apparently, if you are a journalist or someone there with your cell phone and you're filming the apparent beatdown from the police that's about to happen, you're supposed to shut your phones off as well and stop recording. The Ferguson police told reporters to turn off their cameras before they began attacking the press. Now, reporters documenting the protests in Ferguson, Missouri were told by the police to cease recording just moments before they launched an attack using LRAD sound cannons, flashbang grenades, tear gas canisters, and a hail of rubber bullets. And like we said, our reporters were struck by some of these rubber bullets. They got tear gassed. Josh unfortunately came over with a case of incessant vomiting because he just could not catch his breath. But like we've always said, no, do not turn off your cameras. You're not required to stop filming. Police in a public situation such as this, you always keep the cameras rolling, and that's why we were able to catch this clip right here.
You must leave to your vehicles, leave to your homes immediately.
Please turn off your video.
I think they say please turn off your video. That's what it sounded like to me.
Did they just tell us to turn off, stop filming?
I think that's what they said, honestly.
Sounded like, listen out, they told us to turn now.
Please turn off your
rural
video.
America. What did they say?
I think they say please turn off your video. That's what it sounded like to me.
Did they just tell us to turn off, stop filming?
I think that's what they said, honestly.
Sounded like, listen out, they told us to turn off our recording.
Trapping everybody in?
They tried to. Front line of the InfoWars, Joe Biggs, Jakari Jackson, Josh Owens, the front line as they advance on it. That is really hurting.
So this is apparently a new tactic that they're using. Not only are they shutting down peaceful protests, but now they're trying to, I mean, this was a pre-recorded voice coming out of the MRAP vehicles, I mean, saying, turn your cameras off. So they had prepared for this. They knew there were journalists there. I mean, it's kind of
well, and what happened subsequently, it was very clear that they were targeting journalists, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that's just one of those interesting things is that here we have everyone with their cell phones. They can't tell everyone to turn their cameras off. But what happens when they get that kill switch in all the phones that they're just so desperate to get in all of our phones by 2015, in fact. But last night, Big said that he was aware that they were specifically targeting journalists, and they were specifically coming after journalists. We saw them tear gassing journalists. Jakari Jackson was there with Al Jazeera when the canisters were thrown directly at them. You see them preparing to do a live camera shot of a scene there. They are hit with a round of tear gas, and then you'll see footage that shows militarized police then confiscating their cameras. They dismantle their camera equipment, and another officer points a sniper rifle at the fleeing reporters. So you want to talk about looting? The police are looting the press.
Yeah, I want to get Jakari Jackson's take on this because he was standing right there with those Al Jazeera reporters when they did that. And there's an amazing story from Fox News. They said despite reports, SWAT teams helped Al Jazeera reporters, did not take their equipment. They say the SWAT team was actually helping the journalists in Ferguson and not taking their equipment. In fact, last night, this is the sheriff's department that they're, of course, just repeating his press releases verbatim. That's what the mainstream media does. They say, in fact, last night, the SWAT team officers were assisting the media in moving their camera equipment and media personnel to a safer area with their consent, so that they could continue to cover the event. That's it. They were just gassing them to motivate them to move to a safer area, right?
Yes,
when you look at the video, and let's take a look at this video right now, it's absolutely amazing. See if this looks like they're just trying to move them to a safer area with their consent. You see them getting multiple tear gas canisters shot at them right there. They've got all their lights set up. I don't think that they wanted to move from that area.
No, not he was about to go do a live on there.
Yeah, they were, and if you look at this, you'll see Jakari Jackson right off on the right-hand side of the screen, just on the other side of that sign, running with them. Now, what is interesting is what happens afterwards. Now, they're not taking their camera equipment, actually. They're taking down the lights. They're turning down the lights. They don't want to have lights shown on what they're doing. But you'll also see as we move along on this video here, let's fast forward that up to the point where they come out there with the MRAP or the military vehicle. There they are. They're taking the lights down. And then after they do this, watch this guy goes back to the camera and he actually points the camera down. So he's leaving the most expensive piece of equipment up on the tripod, but he doesn't want it to record anything. So I don't think they were looking after them. I don't think they were helping them to move to another area so they could continue to film in another area. And they say that, and this is the last thing here, they say the position of the St. Charles County Sheriff's Department is that the media has a right to cover these events, and we support the freedom of press. And that's why, Leanne, they ordered everybody and threatened everybody they would be arrested if they didn't stop recording because they support freedom of the press.
Yeah,
this is Orwellian. This is
clear.
like North Korean level of absurdity that we're seeing from Fox News, putting out these press releases from the sheriff's office saying that they were just there helping the reporters in that area.
Right. Well, clearly that's why they had all the MRAP vehicles and the LRAD cannons and all the rubber bullets and everything, because they were clearly protecting everyone's First Amendment rights. That's what they were. I felt a lot safer when the militarized police showed up, especially for our reporters.
That's right. Well, in this next article from Kit Daniels, press suppression, INFOWARS Twitter account suspended twice within 12 hours of creation. This is something that isn't quite as obvious as that. I mean, when you look at what they're physically doing, when they're shooting tear gas at reporters, when they're taking down their lighting, when they're turning their cameras to the ground and chasing these guys off, pointing guns at them as they're running away, that's pretty obvious censorship, isn't it? Less obvious censorship is when they go onto social media and start controlling that. We've been telling you about the many defense contracts that have been coming out, trying to get companies to come on and to do this type of work. And that's exactly what's going on. Now we see the fruits of this. We see in this article from Kit Daniels, he's talking about how for a year he's had a Twitter account. He's posted all kinds of INFOWARS content on that. And yet, last night, when he started up with a brand new Kit Daniels 1776, he used it only once to tweet out an INFOWARS video showing what was going on in Ferguson, Missouri, with police snipers targeting unarmed protesters. And he says within hours, it was suspended as a, quote, suspected spam account. And he had to go back with CAPTCHA validation to unlock it. And then not long after that, they shut it down again. It's now still down because it requires a mobile phone number to unlock, and he's not giving that to them. He points out that in comparison, another Twitter account under Kit Daniels, he said, has never been suspended in its nearly 1-year existence. He also points out that the main Twitter account from the official Alex Jones, the real Alex Jones account, says that was blocked from sending tweets last night. Multiple users of Facebook also reported they were unable to share YouTube videos by INFOWARS. And of course, we've seen in the past that this has happened. Also last night, Facebook was adding erroneous code to shortened INFOWARS.com URLs yesterday so that people would not get the correct link. This is something that's been going on quite some time. We've had this happen in the past. Of course, Facebook suspended 20 accounts last year, actually in late 2012, because they said that they violated Facebook policies. They threatened to close Alex Jones's account over an image of Osama bin Laden with the words al-CIA written underneath it, because of course we know that the CIA created Al-Qaeda just as they have created ISIS, as they've created IS, as they've created ISIL. They create all these pseudonyms to try to keep people confused as to what's going on. But we've even got congressmen and senators now who are saying that we should not be arming these guys. So that's not anything new, and yet Facebook will shut that down. And we should remember that it was just 2 weeks ago that we reported here on the Nightly News that PopTip, a social data mining company, had been acquired by Palantir. Now, in case you don't know who Palantir are, we've covered that as well. They were involved with, first I came under scrutiny with the Snowden document leaks when that program PRISM was out there. Palantir is a company that was created with venture funding from the CIA, from In-Q-Tel, their venture capital company. openly funded by the CIA, I would add. Now they are buying this company, which is a data mining company,